Hi everyone, welcome to AI Time Journal. Shivam Arora, a senior artificial intelligence consultant working at the Deloitte Consulting, is launching his book titled Python for Accounting and Businesses, Volume 1. This book will give you a brief and a very detailed insights on how Python programming language can be used effectively for accounting, financial, and other business related tasks. Do watch out for it and order the book soon. Hello, everyone. This is Akshay Toshniwal, Associate Editor at the AI Time Journal. Welcome to the podcast series. Today, we have with us is Mr. Shivam Arora, Senior Consultant working, in the area of artificial intelligence at Deloitte Consulting. It's an absolute pleasure to have you, Shivam, today with us. Thank you for joining, and
My
it's
pleasure.
completely a pleasure and honor to host you today and understand about your journey, your experience. And I'm sure you're writing a book, you're an author as well, so would love to hear your insights and experience on that front too. So before we jump into our conversation on AI, the future of it, and some more information on your book, maybe if you could give a brief introduction about yourself, and we'll take it forward from there.
Okay, so I am a data scientist, as you mentioned, with Deloitte Consulting. I specialize in applied artificial intelligence for accounting and finance or business data in general. My background is unique in that I'm also a certified public accountant, a CPA,
Okay.
which is the US equivalent of the chartered accountant that you have in Commonwealth countries.
Right.
So that is why I have skills on both the accounting and business side and the AI and data science side, which is why I specialize in applying the latter to the former.
Right.
I graduated with dual master's degrees, an MS in accounting and an MS in business analytics back in 2019,
Okay.
and have been with Deloitte ever since.
Okay, great. So, how did you started your journey? I mean, did you started your journey, as you mentioned, you've done your CPA, which is equivalent to chartered accountant in a few countries. And, but, from CPA to data scientist, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of experience and a lot of different kind of things within your journey. So can you elaborate on that front a little bit?
Yes, so I started out as an accounting finance person, graduated with my bachelor's in accounting and finance, but I completed a couple of research projects in school, and that basically gave me an indication that everything in the world is being awash by data very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Data is infiltrating all industries, be it medical or oil and gas or accounting and finance, even. So, the fact that I use statistical techniques gave me an idea of how necessary it is for me to develop a data science and an analytical background if I want to really make an impact in my profession and separate myself from the general population of candidates, which
Mm-hmm.
is why I added a second master's degrees to my accounting program, a data science degree.
Okay.
As I pursued both degrees together, I felt like my calling was to improve accounting and finance profession with data science because that is happening whether we like it or not, and it's great that I'm trying to keep up with that, I guess.
Great. I think that sounds really great because nowadays we also see that it's not just about the technical knowledge that is important, but besides that you need to have certain domain knowledge, certain
Yes.
depth of a particular area where you can actually apply those data skills and work accordingly in that particular field and build something really very valuable. So, that brings to my first question, stating that, you've been into this business and commerce area as well, because, you've done that master's into financial accounting. That's your, core strength area. So, what do you think? How has AI been implemented in the business field? And what's your opinion on that?
So business, I think traditionally has, and by business I say accounting and finance, well, accounting, auditing, all of the core business subjects has generally lagged behind other sectors like core tech or healthcare or oil and gas when it comes to implementing artificial intelligence. And I think that majorly that has been because it is difficult to find people who have domain knowledge of
Right.
the highly complex business fields,
Mm-hmm.
but also know how to build machine learning applications under the umbrella of that domain knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but certain ways that AI has benefited business fields is really, if you think about it, automating something called as robotic process automation, where
Mm-hmm.
you automatically complete certain manual repetitive tasks that are repetitive but do not follow a standard pattern.
Okay.
So when they don't follow a certain pattern, but you have to do them every month, say,
Mm-hmm.
then you can use artificial intelligence to automatically do those tasks without providing any explicit instructions like if then else statements,
Okay.
and or do some sequential programming. Other than that, I think there have been, of course, implementation to identify abstruse and difficult to see patterns. One of my professors used to say that in business, one of the biggest association rules that comes out for grocery stores when they are getting their bottom line
Mm-hmm.
and calculating their accounting metrics is that they notice that sales of diapers are closely related with sales of beer.
Right. Right. I've heard
So
about that.
generally, those two happen together. Now, as humans, we don't usually think about such relationships happening, but that can be probably attributed to tired from work dad going on a night run to buy diapers and then picking up a carton of beer on the
Right.
way back.
Mm-hmm.
And so just finding these abstruse patterns and finding automating repetitive tasks and really just allowing humans to focus on the more strategic aspects and
Okay.
freeing them up from the mundane regular tasks is where I think AI shines up in business. That being said, I still think there's a long way to go.
Right, right. So, just wanted to know on a high level side, as you mentioned that it's a long way to go. What do you think could be certain ways that, this AI in business could be, possibly improved? What do you think on that?
Well, the start has to happen at the grassroots level, I guess, when business professionals start out as students and first take up their major.
Mm-hmm.
Because if have been in the industry for quite some time and you just spring on the concept of AI to them, of machine learning, data-driven decision making to them, it's too late by then. So I think that accounting, finance, and just general business management programs need to include more of an analytical component to
Mm-hmm.
their curricula. And I think that you have to mold their mindset to encourage data driven decision making and to let them know that programming languages and analytics is not just for the tech industry, it's
Right.
also for businesses. So that will have a domino effect of them learning that their mind gets made up, and then when they become entry level professionals, all of their movements happen around
Mm-hmm.
AI and machine learning. And in the next 5 years, you have professionals who have been doing this since they were in school, and that's just how their mind works, and they are more open to change than others.
Got it. Got it. Got it. And when we talk about this data related field and AI, you working in that industry, and even I am one of the person who's working in that industry. So we know that how it is continuously evolving, because it's a more research oriented area. When we talk about artificial intelligence, it's more on the research side where there's every day something new coming up, right? So wanted to know your thoughts that will there be any point where these companies, be it top companies, mediocre and small players, will there be a time where they cannot keep up with the evolving technology, especially when it comes to AI and data?
So there's two sides to that. I think that there's, on one hand, you have your core tech companies like the Fang and Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
And these companies are really at the forefront of AI. They're already at the top of the bubble, and they are continuously researching, pushing the limits of AI. So they already have cutting edge solutions. So I think they will not be as impacted by the speed because they're the ones who are driving it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think other companies that are in the market that are not tech specific, whose day-to-day job is not to develop technical solutions like,
Mm-hmm.
say, ONGs or manufacturing, I think already they are not keeping the pace that I think they should when it comes to AI. So I think that that's already happening. AI is moving at a much faster pace. For example, companies are working with deep learning and computer vision and neural networks, companies like Facebook and Google. And you have certain companies that do not even apply. Most companies that are not in the field start off with basic regressions and
Right.
supervised learning, and that's where they are right now. So
Mm-hmm.
we AI has already moved incredibly fast. Like if you think in the next last decade or so, there's really been an explosion of the speed that has happened.
Right.
And so companies are already behind. Most of them don't use AI properly. They just don't have. So the problem that comes is you don't have people who can apply technical skills under the business umbrella with domain knowledge.
Mm. Right.
So you need to have that background of, well, how does an oil and gas industry work? How does a pet industry work? How does an accounting industry work?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where us consultants we come in at my firm or even the some of the other top consulting firms. Is we are not in the business of increasing AI's threshold. We are in the business of helping other companies who don't even know how to properly do it implement the current standards. So I think that yes, the speed is there and more needs to be done so that we are moving toe to toe.
Got it. Got it. Right. That's really very important. That concept of data literacy that should actually be spread out, and people should be aware that how that data they can make actually use of it to derive some really very useful insights. That's really very important.
Exactly.
That's true. Coming back to your core strength area, finance and accounting, what do you think that if AI is implemented in that area, what could be the major, maybe the challenges or the problems that could be fixed in the financial and accounting domain?
So I am a CPA, so I'm specifically going to start with accounting. Like, so accounting is a very big, very huge
Mhm.
subject. It
Okay.
is not just contrary to a lot of beliefs, bookkeeping and just doing mundane entries. Accounting deals with complex calculations,
Mhm.
very, very technical principles that you need to use for accounting billions and trillions of dollars in transactions.
Okay.
You have tax accounting, which deals with tax laws, management accounting, which deals with strategic decisions inside the company.
Mhm.
So I think the start of some of the problems that could be solved is that, say, you could have AI, and companies are already working on that. You could have AI that is completely abreast of new tax laws and is helping customers navigate the best tax strategy given a certain set of circumstances.
Okay.
Usually you have staff members who do this, CPAs, but CPAs having in conjunction with AI can really bring that up, because we as humans, we don't remember all the laws. We have to look up tax laws in a book. AI, that they are quicker than us when it comes to this. There's other things like, suppose, automating journal entries, right? You take transactional descriptions, and
Mhm.
instead of having a staff member who probably is not developing many skills doing the same journal entries over and over again,
Mhm.
have AI go through transaction descriptions and make journal entries automatically on your behalf. So that's one more. Then there's auditing. There's you could go through contracts and determine whether, suppose, a lease that a company has is a financial lease or a sales type lease, or all of these different kinds of, so using natural language processing to
Right.
understand what the contract says.
Correct.
And in the finance domain, I think it has already been implemented fairly sophisticatedly. I think that there are hedge funds and companies who are predicting stock prices every day. There's net present value calculations. But again, I think that a lot of the problems where you have humans not wasting, but I guess investing their precious time in
Mm-hmm.
completing seemingly mundane tasks, you could get them out of that and move them to more strategic decisions when you have sophisticated AI that's at a level. But again, most companies are not even at the level where they can
Right.
establish preliminary AI.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So let's say if someone is just starting out, with these AI and trying to combine AI and businesses. Someone is just starting out. So what would be your maybe your advice or thought process to such kind of organization who are just trying to bring in that AI driven approach into business?
Okay, my first one would be check first. The first thing is check if you have talent for that or not. Talent,
Okay.
as in you have people, your human resource understands how to build AI systems from the ground up.
Mhm.
If not, it is always great to work with companies who've been doing this for a long time, bring in consultants just to establish that initial setup.
Mhm.
But my advice is, yes, start basic. Make sure first that your data is at a level that you can use it to model. Sometimes your data lake is all over the place. Most companies, you have to build really 3 or 4 layers on top of these data,
Mhm.
summarizing and aggregating ETL before you can even think about developing machine learning models that can generalize well. So focus on talent, developing talent, focus on developing the data. A data scientist's job, and this is what most people don't understand in the business field specifically, it's 80% ETL. It's 80%
Right.
making sure that the data works,
Right.
making sure that you understand the data.
Right.
Maybe 85, it's 15 or 20% dot fit, dot predict.
Hmm.
Building a model, you have programming languages, you have packages that will do that for you.
Right.
But just feature engineering, the more soft sides,
Right.
so focus on them, and building a model will just follow suit. And just understand that it is a marathon, not a sprint. You can't, it seems like, there's deep learning frameworks. You could just fortnightly, you could develop neural networks, which will give you 95% accuracy and are not overfitted. So
Right.
just change your mindset. Have that mindset that yes, we are not getting great models, off the bat. Maybe it's a problem with the data. Don't give up. And continuously, you're just going to be in a frame of mindset where 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, it just comes naturally to you on how to stage data and how to build a machine learning model.
Got that. I think that's really a very, useful piece of advice for any business who wants to start off with AI or maybe, let's say a data-driven approach. So thanks for that insights. The next could
Absolutely.
be, as we, talked about that, how AI could possibly fix some challenges in finance and accounting domain. But now let's think the other way around and let's try to, if you can highlight some points on that, what areas in finance could be, evolved, changed, or updated so that AI could be plugged in very comfortably or AI could be used very comfortably.
Okay, so I think that there's a general, you need to change the general mindset in finance that
Mhm.
processes you are developing and the data you are collecting,
Okay.
there's a not just a high but an almost absolute chance that
Mhm.
it is going to be working with some sort of artificial intelligence in the near future. So
Okay.
sometimes as humans we like to develop processes, say Excel worksheets or data that makes sense to us but is not very amenable for training a machine learning model.
Okay.
And so just changing your processes in general so that changing your mindset that the processes, the spreadsheets, the data you're developing, the spreadsheets you're developing, the processes you are implementing, internal controls, that the data you're working with is not just going to be seen by humans. And so you can't just like say type in a lot of
Right.
things, or just having an approach towards more structured processes, and keeping that in mind that AI is not at a stage that it can think as well as the human brain, nowhere close.
Mhm.
And so I think that the general structure of processes, like for example, if you are analyzing contracts, right? So instead of like in your analyses, noting down, making notes all over the place, and including a lot of punctuations that are unnecessary, you start writing points in a way that it's not completely like structured, but that's fine, but it still is less bogged down by punctuation, stop words,
Mm.
and all of those things, so that you know that even though a human is processing all of this right now, there is a very high chance and a very lucrative chance that we could shift an AI to do all this. And if you start with that mindset, you save millions of dollars and a huge amount of time trying to get your data ready later when AI is coming in.
Right. I think that's the end goal, right? To save a lot of time, money, and resources as well. That's true. That's true. So, coming to the thing that you're an author as well, and you're releasing your upcoming book titled Python for Accounting and Business, and that's going to be the first volume. So, I would really love to understand some more insights, and if you can, highlight some important key aspects, what that book is all about, and what could a reader expect out of that book. I think that would really help our audience too.
So, as a professional employed at the intersection of accounting, tax, finance, and artificial intelligence, I have come to develop a lot of skills for applying technology on one side and also gaining the domain expertise on the other side. One of the things that I have noticed is that Python is a ubiquitous programming language in data science. And it is not a programming language, say, like some of the low level programming languages that are just used for hardcore coding or application development. Python is, as we call it, a general purpose programming language.
Mhm.
You can use it as a regular calculator, and you can use it to build websites.
Right.
So that's the range, right? And you can do anything in the middle with
Right.
it. It's easy to understand syntax. So these books are my humble attempt to encourage more accounting and finance and business students to
Mhm.
think of the Python programming language as not something that's reserved for software engineers only,
Right.
as something that can have a profound impact on their skill set, and not just on their skill set, on the industry that
Mhm.
they are going in. And so the book really covers a background of how accounting and finance came about, a little history, and how you can apply this programming language to really not develop, say, sophisticated applications,
Mm.
but just automate your day-to-day tasks like calculating your tax liability for your clients,
Mm.
or passing PDFs and making sure that the PDFs are signed by the client, and just those small little automations or calculations in finance. So you have a background of Python. The first volume is for, uh, a basic background of Python for
Mhm.
business, and then certain basic packages that you have like pandas or numpy or OS that you can really use to establish your foundations.
Right.
So that's a book that's right now in editing or coming by the end of this month. It's going to go on
Right.
pre-sales all over the world. You can have it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble and all of those fancy places.
Mhm.
And it really gives you an overview. It gives a lot of examples in the business or the accounting context, right? Examples that you really can't think of if you're just a data scientist. You
Mhm.
have to really have that CPA background knowledge of,
Right.
say, a dividends received deduction,
Okay.
or double taxation of a corporation, and how do you handle those calculations in Python.
Okay.
And so I really want to, and I continue to say accountants, but the book is applicable largely to any business professional. And then I include 5 or 6 case studies where I give a real world case,
Mhm.
I type it up, and then I just provide a code of how you could use it to import the Excel sheet in pandas, then loop over separate columns, use the OS function to read in file paths,
Right.
and then use fuzzy matching to match file names, and then rename them using OS and F strings, formatting in Python. So that's just one example. So, and the second book that's going to come in, that's going to delve into, and that there's still a couple of months for that, but it's going to delve into more complicated tasks like manipulating PDFs, using optical character recognition to scan out certain areas of a
Right.
PDF.
Okay.
And PDFs could be like invoices that you use in business, right? Or documents, using Selenium and Splinter and libraries like that to automate your day-to-day web browsing based tasks
Okay.
using mouse clicks. And it's really my attempt, and it's meant to be not it's meant to be a very good guide
Mm-hmm.
to for professionals to have right next to them, specifically for business professionals who are say not looking to build an XG boost or a computer
Got
vision model.
it.
It's just not relevant to the task, but who can still build basic machine learning or
Mhm.
basic uses of the Python language to improve their lives greatly with a few lines of code.
Got it.
And so yeah, that's so be on the lookout for that.
Great, surely. That's, I think, a lot of content coming in that book, I'm sure. And as you mentioned, the interesting part would be the case studies that, you've typed in along with the code snippets and the explanation that you're talking about. I think that would be really helpful for many people wanting to understand that how, we can combine some sort of programming languages with accounting and finance domain, and especially Python, because it's a really very powerful language. So, when can we expect the volume one?
Volume one should be on pre-sales by the end of this month,
Oh,
and it
that's
should
great.
pre-sale.
Wonderful.
So you could,
I'm going to
I
order.
think it's coming out exactly, probably like I'm targeting mid-August for
Hmm.
it to be delivered, but you can place orders starting end of July
Okay,
for
great.
pre-sales.
And any plans on the second volume as well? Because as you mentioned, the next volume would be consisting more of complicated tasks like OCR and some sort of complex parsing data, all these things. So, have you started that already parallelly, or it's going to come, sometime later?
I have started it. I have written a couple of sections, but it I have to cover a huge content
Hmm.
there. So you have libraries that could make books in and of themselves. And so yeah, but one of the things that's great about the book is that it does not only give you a lot of information, it
Hmm.
really helps the reader understand that it's not possible for me to completely include the Python language in a book. So part of the programmer's job is knowing how to research and how to go on Stack Overflow, how to read the documentation, and just accepting the fact that it is not about knowing everything. It's about how you can find
Got
something.
it. Right.
And so that's something that the book guides
Okay.
people to do as well.
That's great. That's really interesting. I'm surely going to order one and get some more learning, understanding from the finance accounting domain, and how do we plug in Python there. So definitely. And coming to my last question, you've got an ample amount of experience in finance domain and especially in AI. So based on your experience, what are the some of the other businesses do you think where AI has been applied very effectively, which is actually playing a very important role besides your organization, which is Deloitte?
A lot of them actually, and I'm just going to talk about general industries. You have your core tech industries. So when you have your natural language processing. When you receive a text from someone, if you go through Google Messages, there's already a list of suggested answers. And I'll tell you, I use the suggested answers and just click on them at least 7 out of 10 times. The answer is appropriate for me to reply. So if somebody texts me from, and so the AI is able to pass that message
Right.
and understand the sentiment behind it, and
Right.
then give you a list of suggested responses. So
Right.
it knows if it's question, if it demands congratulations, or if it demands so sorry to hear that. So that's one thing. So it's really implementing in your regular life. But this is a tech company. They have been doing this for a long time. Let's say healthcare.
Hmm.
Healthcare is not in the business of artificial intelligence, but you have news where people are using neural networks to identify complex patterns on how best to perform a surgery. You have patient records that are being analyzed to predict whether a particular patient or a particular group of patients are likely to develop a certain disease
Hmm.
in the coming months or not. And uh, there have been a lot of you really have stories all around the internet where you
Hmm.
can see that AI has saved somebody's life by telling them beforehand that you are at risk of this disease. So
Right.
so
Right.
do not do certain things. And You really have AI being used with clinical trials,
Mm-hmm.
other spaces. Oil and gas, you have artificial intelligence that uses previous data, drilling data and mining data to give you potential addresses
Mm-hmm.
and that could have oil reserves.
Got
And oil and gas companies have really seen exponential benefits in drilling in certain areas and then actually finding oil instead of just doing exploratory digging randomly
Oh.
and wasting a lot of money. So it's everywhere. You see
Mm-hmm.
pet stores hiring, Petco, and all of these pet smart stores hiring. So for probably using artificial intelligence to make sure what to include in their dog foods or cat foods. So we
Got
can't
it.
be left behind. Accounting and finance profession can't be left behind,
Right.
and you really have to change your mindset into an analytical and data driven one.
Got it. Got it. I think, that would be a huge list for sure when we talk about businesses implementing AI effectively. So thank you so much for sharing, your experience or insights, and really awaiting your book, so that I can quickly order that and definitely get some insights out of it. And yeah, so
Absolutely.
thank you so much, Shivam. It was completely, an absolute pleasure to host you, to understand your journey, your experience, and definitely, I'm sure the audience will love, all the value pointers that you've added in terms of how AI can be used in businesses, specifically in finance and accounting. And I'm sure, other than me, many people would be excited for your upcoming book. So all the best and congratulations on that too.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, Akshay.
Sure. Thank you so much, Shivam. Appreciate it. Thanks.